important the time that you're in, and so the time dictates what makes the work sort of relevant. And I'm fortunate to be on Earth at what I believe is like the Renaissance, the ability to sort of create our own destiny.
Virgil, he is now going to be Louis Vuitton's first African-American artistic director
That's dope.
ever.
He's been tapped to serve as the next artistic director of menswear at Louis Vuitton.
Virgil Abloh will now be designing clothing for the luxury brand.
Now he's moving to Louis Vuitton? That's huge.
Virgil Abloh is one of the most recognizable names in fashion today. His story is legend by now. He worked with Kanye, started Off-White, and ascended to Louis Vuitton. Kanye West has been a longtime supporter of Louis Vuitton, having done sneaker collaborations with them and expressing his desire to be their artistic director someday. But Virgil, Kanye's understated creative right-hand man for nearly a decade, pulled a Star Wars move of sorts when he beat out his mentor for the coveted position. Kanye still feels conflicted about it.
I felt bad. I felt like it was supposed to be me. I was the Louis Vuitton Don. People still call me the Louis Vuitton Don when I'm walking down the street.
So how did Virgil get here? How did he create a personal brand so valuable that the world's #1 luxury house was willing to bet their future on his direction? How did Virgil steal Kanye's dream job? Virgil was born outside of Chicago in Rockford, Illinois. He and his sister were raised by immigrant parents from Ghana. As a kid, he was obsessed with fashion, art, and design. His earliest look at culture came from skateboarding and hip-hop. He said, quote, "I was just like an average sort of suburban kid, born in 1980, into watching Michael Jordan or listening to Guns N' Roses or NWA. Skateboarding and that whole aesthetic was my fashion upbringing." When Virgil discovered graffiti in 6th grade, it sparked his passion for drawing. He and his friends would draw Nike shoes and send them to the company, even though they never accepted any designs. When Virgil got to college, he studied engineering at Wisconsin-Madison to please his father.
My dad said, I always wanted a son as an engineer, and I'm the opposite of like a rebel type. So I was like, that's the least I can do for for you making that stride from a third world country it's like, you're gonna get a son that's an engineer.
After his undergrad studies, he went back to Chicago and got a master's degree in architecture from the Illinois Institute of Technology. At IIT, Virgil had a professor that took him under his wing. He told him to learn the computer programs for more than just architecture. So Virgil learned 3D programs and the Adobe suite, and it was during that class that he started making t-shirts. Abloh began taking shopping trips to New York City and eventually started blogging about a wave of brands selling skate clothing without the skateboarding. This was when streetwear started to make its way into the mainstream.
Originally, I was just a consumer. I was the person that was just buying things that were interesting. I came from an era within streetwear in New York, in Los Angeles, and Japan, that there was sort of like great vibrance because it was new and sort of an independent market.
In the book, This Is Not a T-Shirt, designer Bobby Hundred says, quote, "Defining streetwear is very difficult. A lot of people see t-shirts and ball caps and think it's hip-hop or skater style, but streetwear is simply the merchandise associated with an attitude." Virgil got his first shirts made at a screen printing store in Chicago called Custom Kings. He gave the shop his art files in such perfect format that they literally just hit print. Since he formatted the files perfectly, the store offered him a job. And a couple weeks later, Don C., a manager for an up-and-coming Chicago rapper named Kanye West, went into the store looking for designers. He introduced Virgil to Kanye shortly after, and the two vibed right away because they loved talking about ideas. So in 2007, West hired Abloh to help him realize his growing ambitions beyond music.
Trying to catch the beat. 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 throw your motherfucking hand. Get 'em high.
Kanye and myself have been friends for 14 years now. We've always been driven by fashion. We've always been the kids in the store, like wanting to know more because there felt like something that was at play, something that we didn't know but we appreciated. So that was ironically at the Louis Vuitton store on Michigan Avenue.
For almost a decade, Virgil was Kanye's personal creative director and was in charge of overseeing projects like stage shows and concert merchandise. He was a co-designer of Kanye West's 808s and Heartbreak cover, and he was in charge of art direction for My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, Watch the Throne, and the Yeezus tour.
He's like the strategist. I'm the emoter. I'm like Tesla. I'm thinking of all the ideas, like Nikola Tesla, like not the car. And I'm thinking of all these ideas, and Virgil's able to take all of those ideas and then architect them because he is an architect.
Kanye's history in the fashion industry is as long and involved as his career in music. And since he burst onto the scene in 2004, his impact on men's fashion may be unmatched. The College Dropout shattered the mold of gangsta rap in favor of a more introspective, self-aware style of rap. It shifted the landscape of hip-hop sonically and also changed the world's perception on what a rapper should look like. Ye traded in baggy jeans and triple XL tees for bright-colored rugby shirts, pink polos, and Louis Vuitton backpacks. One of Kanye's first notable sneaker collaborations happened in 2009 with Louis Vuitton. This project led him and his team to Paris.
Kanye's like, wait, Paris Fashion Week? This is where the new collections are debuting? I'm gonna go, you know? Like, I'm gonna use this door. He invited all of us to go with him because he knew that that's what we were into. And he's like, this is where the designers are. These are where the ideas are coming from.
While in Paris, Kanye's team wound up in a squad photo outside of a show that was parodied relentlessly. First online and then on South Park.
Do you remember our South Park photo?
Yeah, I do.
Remember how funny that was? Do you think there would be a Givenchy in the hood if it wasn't for that South Park photo?
Yeah.
But no one thinks about that. No one thinks about the names I got called for like wearing tight jeans.
For Abloh, the ridicule was well worth the opportunity. He and Kanye could tell that the party they were crashing was missing something, and they could provide it. He said, quote, "We were a generation that was interested in fashion and weren't supposed to be there. We saw this as our chance to participate and make current culture. In a lot of ways, it felt like we were bringing more excitement than the industry was." As Kanye's aspirations grew, Abloh became a collaborator in Donda, a company named after Kanye's mother. For years, what Donda actually was remained mysterious, but Virgil, the laptop-holding man seen with Kanye everywhere, was tasked with turning aspiration into actual projects. Ultimately, the Donda project was a mission to raise the taste level of the world.
Working with Kanye, he at one time said something that's super profound and had an impact on me. Ever since then, he's like, yo, you realize that like if we work hard, we could actually like raise the taste level of a whole generation in society.
In June 2012, Kanye released the Air Yeezy 2, which would be the last silhouette he ever designed for Nike. The shoes sold out immediately and today resell for over $7,500. However, Nike never offered him a formal deal. In December 2012, Virgil started his first clothing label, Pyrex Vision. West was seen wearing the brand multiple times over the next few months, and it's safe to say Kanye's influence played a large role in legitimizing Abloh as his own entity. Although Pyrex was met with underground acclaim, Virgil thought of it as more of an art project than fashion brand, so he stopped it immediately to make way for his next idea. Following the release of Kanye West's sixth studio album, Yeezus, Ye did a string of epic interviews where he outlined his frustration with the fashion industry.
I am so frustrated. I've got so much I want to give. I've got ideas on color palettes. I've got ideas on silhouettes. And I've got a million people telling me why I can't do it. You know, that I'm not a real designer, I'm not this. I'm not a real rapper either. I'm not a real musician either. Like, I don't know how to play the piano. Like, I'm an artist. I went to art college.
He said that without a large corporation's backing, the most he'd be able to design would be
T-shirts. That's the most we can make. T-shirts. We can have our best perspective on T-shirts. But if it's anything else, your Truman Show boat is hitting the wall. I make music, I can do it, but I shouldn't be limited to only one place of creativity.
Kim Jones was one significant fashion figure that took Kanye and Virgil seriously from the jump. He's the former men's artistic director of Louis Vuitton and current creative director of Dior Homme. He became a mentor to Virgil.
You know, I've slept on his couch. I've like forced him to teach me, like front room in Maida Vale, and like spend a summer sitting there.
I remember getting all the old Japanese magazines out for you and Kanye, and we're going through them with post-it notes.
Yeah, it's like but we found somebody in the industry before they used the term streetwear or luxury. He was practicing that, going through, like bringing forth like street culture ideas through the high fashion system.
That notion of merging worlds was inspiring to Virgil and laid the foundation for his next brand, Off-White. The design aesthetic is based around diagonal lines and white arrows, industrial packaging with a signature zip tie. When Virgil started Off-White, he couldn't get a fashion writer to write about his project. But with Instagram, he said he took an open source tool and made it his magazine. It made it possible for him to have a fashion brand without using the traditional system. And having been Kanye's creative director for years, Virgil had friends in very high places who were eager to wear his stuff. Soon, people like Jay-Z, Beyonce, Kendall Jenner, and Drake, among others, were being photographed wearing his brand. Off-White was becoming ubiquitous with people who are ubiquitous. Around this time, Kanye signed a fashion deal with Adidas, which was the first big platform that was willing to offer him royalties and a chance to design a collection.
The old me without a daughter might have taken the Nike deal because I just love Nike so much, blah, blah, blah. But the new me with a daughter takes the Adidas deal because I have royalties and I have to provide for my family.
In 2015, Ye released the Yeezy 750 Boost, and later that year dropped the wildly popular low-top Yeezy Boost. With these drops, Kanye helped change the perception of Adidas soles. He turned them into a popping brand, whereas before Nike was really the only game in town. In 2017, Off-White partnered with Nike to redesign 10 of the company's best-selling and classic styles. Virgil said he was very hesitant in approaching this collaboration.
I called it potential career suicide. Like, sneakers are the most sacred thing. Everyone has a valid opinion. So it's a trust that I'm grateful for.
The 10 projects included sneakers from Nike, as well as Nike-owned brands Converse and Jordan. Abloh said, quote, "It's larger than design culture. These 10 shoes have broken barriers in performance and style. To me, they're on the same level as the sculpture of David or the Mona Lisa." The collaboration was teased on Instagram months ahead of the release, leaving sneakerheads heavily anticipating the deconstructed kicks after they were co-signed on social media by stars like A$AP Rocky, Kim Jones, and Naomi Campbell. When they did drop, the sneakers sold out immediately, and most of them resell for over $1,000 today. Kanye was quick to point out that the Nike sneakers got hot again because they offered deals to his former team.
And the funny thing is, look at Nike now. Literally, all the people that ever work with me are like the hottest people at Nike now. Like, they gave them the deals. Because we left and ripped their heads off.
But ultimately, he said he understood why Virgil took the Nike deal.
They got families, bro. You know, these corporations, they provide an opportunity. These are my friends, they have families. If I'm not gonna provide them the same opportunity, I'm not gonna stand in their way either. If you're really, close to me, it's just gonna be my brand. So if people, wanna build their own brand, actually need to be as far away from me as possible.
In a very short amount of time, both Yeezy and Off-White had become two of the hottest brands in the world. But both guys understood that with being a new brand, they had a lot of limitations compared to established luxury brands with thousands of stores and factories. And both of them viewed Louis Vuitton as the pinnacle. It's among the most prestigious fashion houses, and it's the world's biggest luxury brand with a valuation at over $28 billion. At the end of 2017, Kanye was very close to securing a deal with Louis Vuitton. Kanye said he met with Bernard Arnault, who is chairman and CEO of LVMH, a conglomerate that owns Louis Vuitton. Ye said, quote, "We had a deal on the table that we shook on. I did some performances at their museum, and then 3 months later the deal got dropped at the board." Just a few months later, they tapped Virgil Abloh to be creative director of menswear. Abloh was an unorthodox choice. He's a Black American and has no high fashion pedigree in an industry with a storied reputation for being exclusive and largely European. He became the first Black designer to be given this position in the history of LVMH. For Virgil, this was something he could have never dreamt of.
I did not ever think that I could be a designer with a capital D, because no one looked like me. Just plain and simple. I couldn't see. I was like, I'll never get the capitalization. I might be a designer, but I might do it and do another career, because I was like, I don't see people that look like me. I have to get struck by a certain type of lightning to get that sort of epiphany, to be someone to tap me with a wand and say, you're a designer.
Kanye revealed that Virgil's appointment was tough for him on several fronts. One, he had his own deal that fell through, and second, Virgil was his guy, and they took his top designer from him. Kanye always thought he'd be the one getting the job offer.
I felt bad. I felt like it was supposed to be me. I was the Louis Vuitton Don. People still call me the Louis Vuitton Don when I'm walking down the street.
Kanye said ultimately Bernard could have picked anyone he wanted to be the head of Louis Vuitton. So when Virgil asked Ye to attend his first show in Paris in June 2018, he knew he had to go. Kanye said, quote, "If I didn't go, who was I then? No one knew that the deal had been pulled. No one knew that this was the beginning of me going to the hospital. No one knew how this game is." At the end of the show, Virgil got a standing ovation. Among them was Abloh's mentor, Kanye West, who hugged the emotional designer as he bowed and admitted to the audience that he was very proud.
What I love about when I hugged Virgil is he showed me that actually we're all playing on the same court. He ran that touchdown in for us all, because there was a time when we all were crazy. There's a time when it was fish sticks in South Park. Now everybody want to pull up at a fashion show.
Well, Kanye was the guy, when it was completely unpopular, that said, I am not to be typecast into a box. Like, he willed it for us, you know, like I'd go back. He was like, we're going to Fashion Week, this place that we can't get in. That dream is his just as much as it's mine. In my dream, it was him down the runway. The one thing that has to be stressed about that show is that it actually wasn't me on the runway. You know, it was the community. That show was us, you know, and that link wouldn't have happened unless, you know, I acknowledged that Kanye stood from a mountaintop long ago and yelled, saying, the future of fashion will be like this.
Abloh's appointment represents a new wave in fashion and demonstrates that the industry is now taking streetwear seriously. As is often the case with Abloh's work, the designer's move to Louis Vuitton has divided opinions. To some, it's the dawn of a new era in fashion, but to others, it's a sad victory for hype over originality, with critics citing Abloh as not a design genius, but rather a smart communicator that got the system to think he is. So why did Virgil get the appointment over Kanye? Ultimately, I think it came down to perception. In many ways, Kanye West is divisive and too much of a liability. He's never shied away from offering his takes on race and politics. Abloh, on the other hand, has acknowledged race more subtly. He's intelligent, educated, well-spoken, and he speaks to a young, diverse demographic thanks to his wild success at Off-White. So all in all, he was the natural, safer choice for Louis Vuitton. But I guess the point of the story here is that there's never one way to success. You look at Kanye today and his apparel brand Yeezy is a multi-billion-dollar empire. Forbes estimates West earned over $150 million last year. Kanye said in some ways he's blessed he didn't get the offer, and if a fashion house offered him a job today, he'd likely turn it down.
I am in too good of a position to take a job where I have to be away from my wife and my son and my daughters. That just don't make no sense. For what? Family is your most important currency.
Virgil is still at the helm of Louis Vuitton and Off-White and seems as happy and inspired as ever. He said, "I want to share what I've been able to discover with more kids who come from where I come from and look how I look. I want to show them that the world is full of tremendous opportunities."
I just want to make sure that the door is open for a room of these kids to feel like they can design fashion and be on a runway.
Both Virgil and Kanye are inspirations. They fought to be where they are today, and they are outsiders no longer.